Moody's will make its much-anticipated decision on South Africa's credit rating tonight. The ratings agency will take into account the general health of the economy, growth prospects, and the possible impact of the energy crisis. South Africa is currently on a Baa3 rating with a stable outlook. A downgrade will trigger bond sell-offs and have dire consequences for the country. Financial economist Sfiso Skenjana joins us now to look at this. Sfiso, good evening. Thanks very much for your time.
Good evening.
What do you think it's going to be?
I think, where we find ourselves, the growth outlook is not looking so great. We saw that for the full year, GDP numbers came at 0.8% for 2018. So that would have been a material consideration for Moody's. Of course, many pundits, I think, referred to the whole Eskom debacle as a primary consideration for the ratings decision. I think that decision comes in as part of the growth conversation in terms of understanding what shortages in electricity mean for economic growth. We saw Goldman Sachs coming out and suggesting that the outages would lead to about a 0.3% reduction in GDP for the first quarter. But I think the other issue, of course, is the debt issue because, of course, Eskom has reached their debt ceiling. The president did announce that, the government is not going to be taking on Eskom's debt. And I think that's going to give some confidence to Moody's that, the government is really taking quite good steps in terms of really, fixing the issue around our debt exposure, particularly because of our SOEs.
Now, yesterday, in fact today, this morning, Pravin Gordhan was attending a public meeting. He was asked about the Eskom problems, and he reckons it's going to take about 18 months to sort out Eskom. On a day like this, when Moody's has to take a decision, they hear that. What do you think is going to be, their reaction on an issue, as you have just pointed out, that pundits have been saying may just, seriously skew or sort of lead Moody's to take a decision that we wouldn't want?
I don't think anyone expected the turnaround at Eskom to happen overnight. The problems in the organization are broad and layered. So I'm quite confident.
So you don't think that revelation will really have a bearing?
No, because we would have expected, we would have expected a little bit of a lag kind of process and period in terms of how long it takes to get Eskom back into what we call an efficient frontier. So I think the message coming out of there, I think would probably give more confidence around certainty. Right? Is that if the political leaders have a lot more comfort around the time it will take to turn an organization around, I think from a Moody's point of view, that gives them confidence because then, while they're considering the growth conversation, the debt issue, they've always been asking us, how long will it go on for? How long will it take to fix the coal issues? How long will it fix the management and mismanagement issues? And when they are getting a ballpark figure around the time expected, I think it shows that Minister Pravin is confident around what's in place, and that should be positive from a Moody's point of view.
Now, yesterday, you will have seen Tito Mboweni was very angry on the e-tolls question. Now, if Moody's people were like watching Tito, on the back of that decision, what do you think will be is it something, because it does speak to, at least potentially, the ability of a state to actually take populist decisions that have nothing to do, with the proper management of the economy, but populist decisions that are meant to sway, voter sentiment, isn't it?
I mean, I think it's, when you look at it on balance, it's hard to attribute this to electioneering, particularly
but this issue has been with us for a very long time. And then on the eve of an election, boom, here's a decision.
Absolutely. So it's hard to attribute it directly to electioneering because these two individuals or these two organizations are part of the same party, in essence. So if you're looking at ANC and you're looking at the fact that they are the governing party, and so a position that Minister Mboweni takes and Sanral takes, one would find it hard to, at least from my point of view, to say this is completely an electioneering point of view, or at least coming from an electioneering point of view. But I'm 100% comfortable with the position that Minister Mboweni took, because it is also showing that National Treasury won't take things lying down. When they go down and they have conversations around what our budget looks like and what it looked like, what the expectations around that budget should be, and then it is important for the stakeholders that are involved in how that budget gets collected to play their part. And so for me, it's an incredibly motivating signal when you see Minister Mboweni coming out and saying that that's unacceptable, because there must surely be a process where anything that's got budget implication needs to go through the right channels. And it clearly didn't go through the right channels, because that should have gone through National Treasury if e-tolls are part of how National Treasury has planned for revenue in the coming year.
What do you think will happen? What's the worst case scenario should Moody's downgrade us?
The first question is, what do I think will happen? I wouldn't expect Moody's to downgrade South Africa to junk, primarily based on their initial recommendations that came out in January in terms of what they were looking at. Growth was one of the considerations. I don't think there's been a material deterioration from a growth outlook point of view. They've made assertions around policy certainty, and if we expect the ruling party to continue ruling, we've seen a little bit more confidence, a little bit more certainty, a little bit more direction from our incumbent president, that of the path at least that we're going to go on economically. The issue around Eskom, I think, is a material issue. It has implications for growth. And I think that will probably come alongside with concerns around emerging markets in general, and we saw what happened in Turkey and what is happening in Turkey. I think Moody may probably move our outlook to negative. And I think that's probably going to be their position. I'm not convinced that the sentiment or the landscape has changed that dramatically that would warrant a move from a stable outlook